Hi, today I'm going to be smoking 2 racks of pork spare ribs. This is how I buy them, untrimmed rack of pork spare ribs. First thing I'm going to do is trim these things up St. Louis style, and I'm not going to go into this on tape just because of time constraints, but basically what you're doing is cutting along this line of cartilage here, removing the rib bones from the skirt area. So I'm going to be removing the skirt meat as well as the brisket. And then I'm going to be saving this meat and smoking it along with my ribs. What I like to do is dice it up and add that to my beans. Then I'm going to be removing the membrane. Again, there's plenty of videos on YouTube on how to trim these St. Louis style and remove the membrane, so I'm not going to go into that. And when you're done trimming the ribs, they're going to look like this. So I got a nice uniform cut of meat now. I've removed the membrane, I've removed the flap, separated the brisket from the ribs. I still have a lot of meat here that I can smoke and add to my, like I said, I like to dice it up really fine, add to the beans I'm going to make. All this cartilage is gone, which is a pain to cut, when you're after it's finished and you want to serve them up into portions. So now it looks a lot like, baby back ribs, like a loin back. But I think it's a lot better marbled than the baby backs, and it just gives you a lot better flavor. At this point, if you wanted to, you could add your rub and let it kind of marinate in the rub. If you're going to do that, just make sure you don't have a high salt content in your rub. Again, this is thin meat on this bone here, and if you got a lot of salt in there, you're going to almost cure the meat. You're going to end up with a tough, dry rib, and it's going to taste more like ham than a spare rib. So I'm going to apply my rub just before I get them on the smoker. I got one more rack to trim up. Okay, my pit is preheating outside. I got the barbecue outside warming up, and right now I'm getting ready to apply my dry rub. And I like to apply mustard to my pork ribs, and also, actually when I do a shoulder, use it as a binder. And I also like the it's got a nice kind of a spicy, savory flavor that just kind of another level of flavor. Underneath my rub, it just kind of balances out. Because my sauce is a little sweet, but it's got a little warmth to it. It's just I don't like ribs that taste like candy, and this kind of helps with that. Like I said, it's a little bit more savory and spicy. But you don't have to use mustard. You can use oil or Pam, Worcestershire sauce, whatever you like. Just depends on what flavors you like. But anyway, I want to apply this back and front and also on the edges. I'm going to get it nice and coated. Now I got a dry hand. Now I'm just going to apply my dry rub. Got some sugar and some peppers and stuff in it. It's not too spicy, but not too sweet. And I'm going to apply this the front and back of my ribs, and also I want to get the ends. All right, so as you can see, the ribs are all rubbed down. I got it, front and back, and I got all the ends, well coated with a nice, healthy, generous portion of the rub here. Like I said, my barbecue's out there preheating right now. I'm just trying to bring the temp up, and while it does that, I'm just going to let them sit here, and the rib rub will start, kind of liquefying onto the ribs here, and just going to, like I said, just let it sit for a few minutes until I get them onto the rack. All right, so I've got my pit preheated now to 230 degrees. I'm going to add the ribs. I'm going to place them on the cooking rack, bone side down, meat side up. And here is this is that brisket meat I removed. I decided I'm only going to cook a small section of the brisket meat for my beans, and I'm going to use the rest. I'm going to grind it up and use it as taco meat in a couple days. So anyway, I'm going to add a pan of boiling water to the chamber here to just keep some moisture in the air inside the cooking chamber. And For the first 2 hours of the cook, I'm going to be using applewood and pecan, and after that first 2 hours I'm going to spray both sides of the ribs with apple juice and then cook in an additional hour before I foil them. 2 hours have elapsed on the smoke here, and what I'm going to do now is just spray some apple juice onto the ribs, and this is just going to add a little extra moisture, and also the sugars in the apple juice will caramelize. It's kind of nice mix with the rub. Do this front and back. You can see the ribs are already getting a really nice color. The meat's starting to recede a little bit from the bones there. I'm going to close the lid here, smoke it for an additional hour, and then we're going to foil the ribs. Just wanted to show you something else too. Just notice after that first segment I added 3 disposable loaf pans of water, and it's just adding a nice amount of steam in the air and just keeping the moisture in the air there. So something to think about. Okay, 3 hours of cooking time has elapsed total now. They've been on smoke, and what I'm going to do now is remove them from the pit and foil them up. As you can see, they've developed really nice color, and I'm sure they're getting really tender now. I'm going to go ahead and foil them. Basically, all I'm doing is I've got the ribs. I've placed them bone up on the foil, and I'm pouring in, I don't know, maybe a quarter cup or so of apple juice onto the ribs. I'm going to wrap them up. Nothing really rocket science. I'm going to place them back on the pit now. Okay, they've been foiled now for 1 hour and ready to check for tenderness. Just going to unwrap the ribs here a little bit. And again, I just always use this meat probe here. Just push it in, pull it out, and yeah, there's very little resistance. Okay, they're definitely ready to start finishing now. So I'm going to unwrap the foil, and then we'll get to the next process. Okay, I've got the ribs out of the foil now. As you can see, the meat's pulling away, receding a little bit here, which is a definite sign that they're really getting tender. Start the finishing process now, which is the glaze. And basically, I've got a barbecue sauce that I make. I've already basted the back, the bone side. Just gonna give these guys a nice mopping of the sauce. We're going to shut the lid now and going to glaze them. Let the glaze caramelize and set on these ribs for about another hour. Okay, 1 hour has elapsed now on the finishing process, which was just basically, again, mopping it with my barbecue sauce and allowing it to kind of glaze on there. So I'm going to check it out. And they look really, really, really good. Smells awesome. I'm going to go ahead and pull these off the rack now, and I'll let them set for a few minutes. Alright, here's the finished ribs here. As you can see, it's got a nice glaze to it. They're very, very tender. It's got a nice smoke ring there, if you can see that. And they're still very, very juicy. They didn't dry out at all. So, very happy with these. They're going to be delicious. And thank you for watching.